Welcome back to part 2. Question 7. The times taken by a group of pupils to answer a numeracy question was recorded. Histogram below shows some of the results. So this is in seconds, so it's going to be quite an easy question if they'd only taken the maximum person 50. The remaining 16 pupils, we've got a gap here, between 20 and 35 seconds to answer the question and complete the histogram. So with histograms, I do tell you that this is frequency density. So the frequency, the amount of people, is the area of each rectangle. So if you want to calculate the area first, that's normally the first thing you need to do. I'm just going to fill in this blank box first though, so I'm going to answer question A, then I'm going to go back and fill it in because you're probably going to need that later on. So the area of each box tells you how many people. This is a bit reversed, so it's told you that the area is 16. So when I do this length, which is 10, times this length, I get 16. So you need to work out 10 times something is 16. So we should know that. We just need to divide by 10. So it's 1.6. So for this one, you need to go up to 1.6, and then that is your area. So this has been given it to it, so this is 16. The area of this box, so we've got 5 times 2, which is 10. 5 times 5, which is 25. 5 times 2.4, now it wouldn't take you long to do 5 times 2.4, it's only 12. This one is also the same width, so that is also 12. I can't quite, I think that was one whole box. Oh, we'll leave it like that anyway. I accidentally split it into 2, but that's fine. So the 24, 10 times 2.4, that's probably why it's an easy calculation. This one we've got 15 times 1, which is 15. So that will help you later on, so that tells you how many people are there in total. Sorry, I split the 12. What is the greatest possible range? So because this is all about grouped, this is all about estimating. The maximum person could be 50. Might not be, but it could be. And the minimum person could be 5. Again, might not be, but it could be. So the greatest possible range would be the biggest number, take away the smallest number, which is 45. Calculate the total number of pupils that were in the group. So the ones I've circled, these ones, all you've got to do is add them together. So we're going to do 10, add 25, add our 12 and 12, accidentally split those up, add 16, add 15, oh my gosh, add 15, and it makes 90. So again, it wouldn't take me long to add those up. So Gareth was one of the pupils in the group. He says, the time I took to answer the question was 18 seconds. This means I was in the fastest 50% of the pupils. Well, 50% of the 90 pupils is 45, so he's got to be 45 or under. Now, he took 18 seconds. So that is 15, 16, 17, 18. That is here. So we've already got 10. We've already got 25. We need to know the area. Let me maybe use a different colour. We need to know the area of this much here. So it goes across by 3, because I've just drawn over it now. So it goes across by 3, and it goes up 2.4. So you want to do 3 times 2.4, and you get 7.2. So 3 lots of 2.4 is 7.2. So he's got 10. We've got the 10 people here. We've got the 25 people, and we've got 7.2. So that's how much he is. So he's got 10, 25, and the 7.2. That makes 42.2. So yes, he is under 45. So yes, he is. He's fine. It's true. I mean, it might not be. Oh, explain how the statement could be false. Well, like I just said, it's an estimate. It's with grouped data. So people in the group 15 to 20, they could have all been at 15. They could have all been at 20. We were assuming that they were split equally. Like they could have all 24 could be grouped here. But we're assuming that they're spread out equally, but they're probably not. Question 8. A company produces 2 similar road signs. The cost of the paint needed for the smaller road sign is £1.60. Calculate the cost of paint needed for the larger, smaller sign. So this is about, like, the cost of paint would be the area. So as soon as we've got our, what we would multiply by, we just times that by 1.6. Well, to the power of 2 because it's area. So what do you times 30 by to get 45? It's 1.5. So I want to do £1.60 because that's like the area of the painting, the cost of the painting, times the multiplier, but because it's area, you want to square that. So you might take a little bit of time doing 1.5 times 1.5, and then times it by 1.6. So that's going to be a lot of work, which is £3.60. Make sure you practice doing stuff like that, because although 1.5 squared is an easy one, practice using the Chinese box method. Practice, because you might accidentally make a mistake in the exam and go, oh my gosh, I actually haven't practiced doing, Chinese box method. I haven't actually practiced just doing 1.5 times 1.5. Practice these things, guys. You can do the complicated stuff. When I ask you easy questions, you fumble. Question B. The selling price of a smaller road sign is £12. The selling price was calculated from the cost price by adding a profit of 25%, then adding VAT at 20%. Calculate the cost price of the smaller road sign. You must show all your workings. This isn't about similar shapes. This is about percentages. They've got an amount. Let's call it question mark. They've added 25%. Then they've got, let's call it X. We don't know. Then they've taken that amount and they've added an extra 20% of that to get £12. We want to work backwards. So something plus 20% is £12. That means £12 is 120 pounds, is 120%. So if £12 is 120%, 100%, I would just need to divide that, and I should get 10. Okay, so if I was to, maybe you could do that a number of different ways. You could divide it by 12, divide it by 12, and then times it by 10. A number of different ways you could do that. You could divide it by 5, you could divide it by anything. Divide it by 4 would probably be a bit easier. No, because then you'd have to times by something, a fraction. Probably 12 and 10 is probably the best way. So if this X now is £10, so we've got X as £10. They've got something plus 25% is £10. So this £10 is now 125%. Nothing to do with the previous one. It's completely different. So you can draw a line under that. So we've got something plus 25% is £10. That means £10 is 125%. Again, you want 100%. Again, you can do that a number of different ways. You could divide it by 5 to get, and then times it by, what would you divide that by? Well, yeah, divide it by 5, and that gives you 25. So divide it by 5 times by 4. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. 2 times 4, 8. So if I did 125 divided by 5, that gives me 4. Not 4. If I did 125 divided by 125 divided by 5, that gives me 20. Obviously 20 times 4 is 100. That's where I got my 4 from. So you do 10 divided by 5, 2, and then 2 times 4 is 8. So working all the way backwards, this is reverse percentages twice. So we were literally doing that the other lesson. So you just want to do reverse percentages twice. So our answer is £8. Question 9. 2 runners, Katrin and, Deleth, start a race at the same time. The velocity time graph shows their velocities over the first 5 seconds of the race. So we've got Katrin and the other guy. After the start of the race, what is the earliest time that Katrin acceleration was at 0? So that means it's parallel to the x-axis. So it's going to be about here. So that's going to be about 1.7 seconds. So after 1.7 seconds, you basically started to slow down. Use the trapezium rule to calculate an estimate of the distance that she travelled in the 5 seconds. Use T0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We probably did the exact same question the other day. This is where we split it up into triangles and trapeziums. So she wanted it at T1, T2, T3, T4, and T5. I just need to move T3 over, otherwise it'll bug me. So once you've done that, you want to turn them into shapes. So this is a triangle. This is a triangle. This is a trapezium. This is a trapezium. So I know it's almost a rectangle, but it's still a trapezium. Trapezium, trapezium. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. You can label them A, B, C, D, E, and work them out on the other side. I'm just going to do it on this page just so you can see where I'm getting numbers from. So the triangle, if I call this A, we've got area of triangle is a half base, 1, times height, 4. So a half times 1 times 4, which is just 2. So the area of the first one is 2. If I was to do shape B, this is a trapezium. So if I turned it the other way, this is, you should know the trapezium rule. If you don't, it's a half A length plus B times H. So it's a half A plus B times H. However, yours is this way. So you've got A, B, and H. So you want to do 2 sides added, times it by the length there, and then half it. So for B, I want half of this length, 4, plus this length, 5, and then I want to times it by 1. So I want to do 4 plus 5, 9. Half of that, 4.5. So for next shape, C, same rules apply. A half, this length, 5, plus this length, 4.8, and then times it by this length, 1. So 5 add 4.8, and then half it, so 4.9. For shape D, a half times this length, 4.8, add this length, 4.2, and times it by this length, 1. So 4.8 add 4.2, and which is 9, and then half it, 4.5. Sorry, excuse me. Last shape E, again half, this length, 4.2, add this length, 4, times it by this length, 1. So you've got 8.2 halved, 4.1. To get your total distance, you need to now add up all those numbers, and you should get 20. If anyone just writes 20 without doing their work-ins, I'm not collecting your homework and I'm going to make you do it again. C, calculate an estimate for how far Katrin was ahead of that person after 5 seconds. Well, we just did her distance, so we know how far she away is. We just need to do his distance. Now, luckily, his distance is just a triangle. I'm not going to move it because you can't move all yours. Let me just use a different colour. Blue. So we've got this is his, we're calculating. So we've got just a normal triangle, so we're going to do half base times height. So the base there is 5 and the height there is 3. So we're going to do a half times 5 times 3. We know 5 times 3 is 15, and we've got half that to get 7.5. So that's his. His was 20. The difference between those is 12.5. So the 12.5 miles, meters, just it says M. So okay, we'll just go with M. 12.5 M away. Explain why is it underestimate? Well, when we were working out hers earlier, and I was chopping it up into trapeziums, we had quite a few gaps, like over here. So the area trapeziums we were cutting up to were underneath the curve. So you could put trapeziums under curve, because where we cut it up, it was slightly under. If it was over, then it would be an overestimate. Question 10. The diagram below shows 2 similar flasks for measuring liquids. So we've got 2 cones. The flasks are in the shape of cones. Smaller flask, base radius 8, vertical 20, calculate the vertical. Oh, these are similar shapes again. So you've got 2 similar shapes in the same question, but because these are towards the back end, you've got your A-star questions. So it's going to be tricky numbers. So how do you go from 8 to 14? Well, you add 8 and then add 6. So 6 out of 8 is 2/3. So you need the 1 for the 8, and then 2/3. That's a horrible, tricky number. So all you need to do is do 20 times 2/3. So you want to do 20, not times 2/3, times 1 and 2/3. Not 2/3. It's having 6 out of 8. That's 3/4. Sorry, I had a little bit of a mind blank then. 3/4, not 2/3. 3/4, 6 out of 8, 3/4. So 8 times 1 and 3/4 is 14, because it's 6. I don't know where I got 2/3 from. So you want to do 20 times 3/4. Well, 20 times 1 is 20. 3/4 of 20, so split it into 4, so that's 5, and then 3 lots of 5 is 15, so you want to do 20 add 15, which is 35. So that's your 2-mark question. You're probably going to have to do something harder now. The larger flask is now partly filled with liquid up to a vertical height of 15. So this is the larger flask. We literally just worked out the height, which was 35, and we know this base radius here is 14. We want the volume here. Now to do the volume of a cone, it's at the very front of your book, in your formula list. The volume is 1/3 pi r squared times our height. So same as a cylinder, but then you want 1/3 of it. So I have the height, I don't have the radius, but I can use similar shapes to do it. So this is horrible. So how do you go from 35 to 15? What do you times 15 by to get 35? So you want 2 lots of it to get 30. So definitely times 2. And then you've got 5 left over out of 15. 5 over 15 is 1/3. So it's times in by 2 and 1/3. So to get the radius, something times 2/3 is 14. So what do you times 2/3? We can divide it by 2/3, that's horrible. Which is 6. So the radius of it is 6. So we need to do 1/3 times r pi. We're going to leave pi as alone, we're not going to turn it to 3.14 because it says in terms of pi. Times our radius, which is 6. Just checking, 6 is 14, isn't it? Yeah, because 2 lots of 6 is 12. 1/3 of 6 is 2, so 12 add 2 is 14. Yeah, that makes sense. Times it by our height, which was 15. Again, you don't have a calculator for this, so you can't do anything with a calculator. I feel like I've done something wrong. Pi times radius squared. Oh, I haven't squared my radius. So we've got 1/3 times... Sorry. Times 36 times 15. So it doesn't matter which way order you times numbers. So I'm just going to times 1/3 by 36. So 1/3 of 36 is 12. So I've got pi times 12 times 15. So now you've got to do 12 times 15, which is 180. And we've got pi on the end, so it's 180 pi. And we've got centimetres cubed, obviously. Question 11. A company is building a new headquarters. The diagram shows the ground plan of the new headquarters. I think we've done this question before. The plan consists of a square. Using the information, calculate the radius of the sector of a circle. Give your answer in the form of surds. So you should know how to do area of a sector. They've given you the answer. So the area of a sector is pi times your radius squared times your fraction. So out of 360, so with your degree, that's power x degree out of 360, so wherever your angle is here. So this one is 40, for example. So if I substitute in what I've got the area of the sector, that's 200 pi. And I've got pi times our radius squared, which we don't have, that's what we're trying to find out, times 40 out of 360. Now, because we've got pi in both sides, if I divided by pi, they would be eliminated. So essentially, I'll have 200 is r squared times 40 out of 360. That is the same as 1/9. So 1/9 times something is 200. So to get rid of this 1/9, if you check over the other side, you've got times by 9. So you want to do 200 times by 9, which is, if I times both sides by 9, I get 1800, and that equals r squared. To get just r, I want to take the square root of 1800, and now I want to try and put this in this form. So I want two numbers that multiply together to make 1800. One has to be a square number, and the other one has to be a prime, basically. Well, if a number's not a square number, it's normally prime. When you come into things like surds. I mean, actually, that's completely wrong. That's not right. If a number's not a prime, if a number's not a square number, doesn't mean it's not prime. So two numbers multiply. I know 2 goes into it because it's by 900. So I would do 900 times 2, and that's r. So I want this, that's the same as the square root of 900 times the square root of 2. Square root of 900 is 30, so it's 30 root 2 is r. So that radius there, that length there is 30 root 2. The square is to be covered in concrete. Calculate the area of the square. The length of the side of the square, so you're just doing one length times the other. So you've got 30 root 2 plus this 10. So the one side is 30 root 2 plus 10. You want to do 30 root 2 plus 10 times 30 root 2 plus 10. This is expanded brackets with surds. So you want to do 30 root 2 times 30 root 2, FOIL method, which is 30 times 30 is 900, root 2 times root 2 is 2. Then you want to do 30 root 2 times 10, which is 300 root 2, because 30 times 10 is 300. Then you want to do another 10 times 30 root 2, which is 300 root 2. Then you want to do 10 times 10, which is 100. If you simplify it, we've got 900 times 2, that's 1800. We've got 300 root 2 and another 300 root 2, so that's 600 root 2. And we've got plus 100. Again, we can simplify further. 1800 plus 100, 1900 plus 600 root 2. Do not add those together. That is it. That's your answer. The end.